Welcome back to the Dotty videos. The next logical thing to do on this car is to fix this bit. I've just done an introduction video to the car that's on the trailer, which is a rather badly molested Twin Plenum Vitesse. It's got some shocking repairs, but what it does have is a chopped up bit of rear sill. So somebody's taken an original Rover one and then hacked off the rear end of it and made a horrible job of welding it on there. So my intention is to unpick the bit of that I want and then transfer it onto Dotty once I've fixed it. And at the same time I'll learn a little bit about how bad the rust is in the area on this car. Okay, straight away that gets interesting. As soon as that drill bit went through, got a massive pile of rust to land on the trailer. So I'm very interested to see what is actually behind here. I don't think it's attached up here either. So really, if I cut, I need basically from there diagonally up to about here, so that's what I'm going to chop it off straight through here along there, then hopefully it will come off. I don't think they've actually welded in there. I think there's a bead of seam sealer or something, but hopefully that'll drop away. Yeah, look, it's loose anyway. I haven't fully worked out what's going on yet, but the good news is this bit was never attached to the wheel well. They've just, I don't know, made a vague attempt at gobbing it on there. I need to find a way of cutting through there neatly without chopping my hands off. One good thing about unpicking other people's bodges is that they're generally quite easy to unpick. Here we get our first look at what's been done to this car. Right, that is a big relief. That is the bit that's a problem area on SD1s. The reinforcer for where the trailing arm actually bolts in, and that's all perfect. We've got and actually quite a decent thick metal repair made in there, which is almost the same bit I'm about to repair on Dotty. We've got, ooh, that's nice. Up in there I can feel that whole area that I repaired on Dotty. It's pretty good. There's some crustiness up there, but not the end of the world. So could have been worse. Actually happy with that. So I'll clean that bit up and then start shaping it ready to go back in Dotty. It is a hot day for being grinding through underseal and shite like that. That's the bit I want. I really only need like an inch strip all the way down the back, and then where it kicks in there, just follow it through to about there. I might see, this is why I didn't bother going crazy before chopping bits out, because A, I didn't know how that bit was going to look, but B, there was no point rebuilding that bit until I had this bit in my hands, because the two need to work together. I might chop this area out more than I need, because it'll just help me with access to repair that bit in the back. In fact, why don't I do that now? Let's see if we can get that light down here. Hopefully you can now see what I can see. So I need to pick that bit off de-rust this and then make a patch to go into here, and then finish off my sill piece like so. So I'm going to go find some cardboard now. Cardboard engineering complete. That's my camel style patch. Just got to cut it out and then de-rust that bit of the car. It's seriously hot and I can't be bothered to do very much more, but that's my swap hands. This is my little patch, which will go and does go in here once I can remember how I did it. I had it balanced in there nicely a minute ago, but basically, yeah, that's going to go in there. I've just given this a bit of a scrapey. I'll weld that in first, then I'll dress it all, then I'll rust treat it, and then I'll cover it in red oxide before I do the final shaping on that and weld it on over the top. Another day. Oh. Another near accident with me tripping over. Got a patch in there ready to weld. It's done out of the 1.2mm steel, so good for inner sills. It's unbelievably hot today, which is not really what I want for welding, because it means clothes and shit. This is not an easy area to weld and access when you're working on axle stands on the floor, and access isn't brilliant, but I've terminated the rear end of the sill as it should be. Up in there you can see there's areas I won't be able to get to clean, so I'm just going to cover them all in hydrate 80. That might look a bit like a bodge where that flange doesn't actually line up with the one below, but don't forget that these panels were only put together that way in factory because it was easy for them. There's a seam weld down this side, so they're not going to come apart, and I'm happy with that. Then on this side, or the back side rather, you can see all the work I did previously. That hasn't suffered any because it was all covered in red oxide. That's the backside of my repair, and then I've welded in around here as well, so that's all nice and solid. Now I'm going to go find my hydrate 80 and paint all of that whole area in that, and then when that's gone off I'll do it all again in red oxide before I then weld that outer panel on. Absolutely slapped the stuff on, and right in here as well, right up to the back as far as I can go, and shoved it in the sill that way too. And then hopefully you're not just looking at my face, you're looking at painted bits. So while that goes and does its stuff, you might remember there's a big hole there. I don't know whether you're a casual observer of these videos or whether you've been following the whole series, but I had to chop out the bottom of the B pillar because guess what? It was rotten. I had made a repair panel, but I wasn't happy with it, and I got chatting to my mate Phil, who told me that he had a sill which he had sectioned because he wanted the rear end, but of course he didn't need that bit, which is the bit I need. What is also quite funny is it had all of that bit, which I actually rebuilt on my car as it was. Anyway, that potentially can go in another car. This is actually the same, it's just flipped around, so you could chop that bit out and put it on a B pillar, whatever. So I'm now going to measure up, see how much of this I need, chop it out, and then take it up to the car and get it to fit. Just done a rough cut. This is oversized at the moment. Taking that door back off again and have the scars to prove it. This will be trimmed up to fit in there. I'm very happy I've got that. My original piece, relegated to the shit heap on the floor, I never got around to finishing it, but basically I was never happy that that was going to work. I mean, it would have worked, it just wouldn't have looked as nice as this will. And every time I do a job, just try and do it the nicest I can. And if you always start out like that, you generally end up with a better job. If you start out with, or if I start out with the option or the idea that I'm just going to bodge it or lash it up, it generally becomes really bad. So I have got to do some final trimming of the car. This piece is the size I want it. I've taken reference measurements from that hole and that hole up there to these leading edges, so I know where it goes. Then I'll put this in, then I'll weld the B pillar onto the top of it once I've finished repairing these returns. How much of, I mean, this I'll need to cut off, drill out the plug welds, chisel that off, clean that up. Hopefully that return doesn't need a weld repair. This is all good, it's just surface. So I'll get on and do that. Just been hacking away at this area. Access isn't easy, particularly to that bit because of that hinge. But the other bits I've done my usual chopping through, and now I'm just gonna abuse it with the chisel. If I can find somewhere to put the camera. How about there? That took 20 minutes if you're interested. Ooh. We have all of the new panel trimmed to size. I say trimmed to size. I will probably, ideally I want a gap about that big all the way around for when I weld it. So I really need to take a little bit more meat off the front here, and possibly a little through here again. With this repair, because it's in such a structural area, I mean, this car, I've mentioned it before, they're really stiff for the age of car that they are. It's like impressively stiff. But even so, I want to be able to grind these welds smooth and make it look perfect, much like sort of that area looks kind of original. And because of that, I want to have 100% confidence that I've got really good penetration into these welds, which are ultimately going to be butt welds. So what I intend to do is weld little shelves onto here, perhaps not all of the way round, but certainly along here, and along there. Then I can sit my repair panel on top, do the plug welds, and then put nice big thick welds along here, and then probably daintier ones in there. But that'll just mean that I can really get the heat in there, really make nice solid welds without worrying about A, blowing a hole, and B, wire poking through randomly. And it should just make for a neater job. So if I do need to take any additional metal off, I'll take it off the panel rather than the car, which means I can now put Hydrate 80 on these parts, and then let that go off, and then have a really good hoover out inside the sill, get rid of all of this swarf and rubbish, and excuse me, it's the COVID-19, I'm sure. Yeah, get rid of all of that and make a really nice inside of the sill, then paint it all in red oxide before I then weld the top on. I'm now just going to try and clean as much of this sill section as I can. Kind of lost track on what I was filming, what I was doing. I went and had a cup of tea and then forgot. Hydrate 80's gone off. I've hoovered that bit out. I'm now just going to paint the inside of there as much as I can get with red zinc. Same in here. The back side of this bit, that's now been degreased and got all the protective coating off it, so it's now a perfect piece of steel. I've also made these little strips which will sit like that and like that, so that I can get nice good welds, good penetration. Also for something for it to sit on while it's in there, and then a nice long one through there as well. Again, same reason, just need to deburr some of this a bit more. I can do the final bit once the red oxide's done. What else was I going to do? Meh, I can't remember. I think that was that. Might look a bit slapdash, but the important bits are done. The reason I've also done it a bit slapdash is because it's just so damn good in there already. You can see when I brush, the paint doesn't want to sit because there's still solvents in there from all the cavity wax that the car had originally. So I'm just wasting my own zinc paint really if I was to go crazy. Did just spot that bit there, forgot that bit. All of this will probably be sanded back again and then zinc painted, sort of weld through painted before I do the final welds anyway, but there you go. Right, wait for that to go off now. Just as I was about to walk away, I remembered I've still got to paint all of that in zinc, so I'll do that now too. That bit's done. If I can get out without painting my head. All of this side is done as well now as well. So I'm going to wait for all that to go off, then I can come back, weld the tabs on, and then hopefully zinc paint it and weld it all back together. We've got paint going off, and yeah, just the next stage really is to put some tiny tack welds in on these parts just to hold them there. They don't need to be strong or anything like that. Literally these are acting as a little shelf to catch welds that want to go through and to help in alignment really, although I don't really need it. I can use magnets and other stuff. Hopefully you get the idea. Let's go and see how this fits with those little shelfy tab things. Whew. This might be the last thing I do today because I'm getting tired. I spent most of the day actually on a roof repairing joists and wood staining stuff. So that'll fit on there like that. And then I'll weld it in, finally. But I can't weld it in at the moment because all of the paint would just burn off and go horrible. Plus I think it needs a tiny bit of reprofiling just at the ends. But why don't I do that quickly? Get in there, you bastard. God damn, that's gonna look amazing. And this is not really, you know, this is a nice easy repair when you think about it, because you're all welding from above, all nice clean steel, and it's gonna come out looking lovely. The only prep really left to do is drill these holes out to a larger size. Can't remember what I've been using, but these punched holes are 5mm, whereas when I'm doing plug welds I'd like to have it at least 6.5, 7, but it's, you know, personal preference, I guess. Just been and drilled those holes out. Those two at the front were about 7.5, the rest are 6.5, and I think I'm just going to do 6.5. So as a quick recap, all of that's red oxided, there's no rust in there, no nothing, it's all ready to go in. I'm happy with the alignment. I've just got to clamp that in and then weld it really. So that's what we're going to do now. Ouch. Note to self, don't punch threads on door hinge. Oh. Even though I've done this sort of quite carefully, there's still very slight alignment issues. They're not issues, they're just details, so I'm gonna do the classic weld it where it sits and weld it where it's happy, and then unclip it, move it, all the rest of it. What will it be? On my straight edge. Very nice. He says then moving it. Right in the gentleman's area. Not where you want burning hot lances. Oops. You might be wondering why I just put the mini grinder through there. Basically, I had a slight, like the lower panel was inside, excuse me, the outer one, and I couldn't move it with the chisel, so I widened the gap essentially, and now it's all flush. But I'm going to call it a day, because as good as that's looking, and as much as I want to see it welded in, I'm really tired and I can feel that I'm just going to rush it and fuck it up. So it's about 5:30. I've spent about 2 hours on the car today, but I've spent about, I don't know, 4 or 5 doing roofing stuff, so I'm quite tired. So I will go up to the house. I think I've run out of cider as well, which is a shame. This, I think, is going to look really good once it's actually done. You can see how all of these levels are near as damn it bang on. I'm pretty sure I can get some really nice strong welds in there, no concerns about blowing holes, and I can get good penetration, and then I can grind it all smooth, and theoretically I could even make it an invisible repair with no filler, just grinding it carefully. Then it'll be plug welding these then sectioning the B-pillar section to go in on top, which should be quite a fun, easy final piece. Then really, on this side of the car, there's only that bit and that little bit, and then it's done. Oh, and of course the doors. Oh, bollocks, yeah. And there's one bit up here I forgot to point out. Up here we have some nasty rust behind the window seal, and I've got, it's actually what the diesel did as well. I think it's going to be a window out job, and once the window's out I got to repair that bit too. I didn't really want to have to do anything too invasive because I really like this sort of patina thing that's going on, and this car, it'll have filler to blend all this in. Then my thinking is to get these bits blown in carefully in silver. It's not platinum silver, it's, I think it begins with an A, I can't remember now. But leave all of these patina bits like this. I mean, this car is becoming a lot better than I had originally intended. I've done a lot more metal work. Originally I was just gonna sort of gob fiberglass filler in some of these bits, and then let the car kind of mellow, but it's kind of snowballed a bit, as quite a lot of my projects seem to. I don't know, I'm not very good at just bodging temporary repairs. I tend to, if I find rust, I hate rust, so I tend to cut it out and get rid of it. Yeah, I can tell I'm tired because I'm talking crap, so I'm going to go in. See you later.